No, I don't know what I'll watch. Any ideas?
You like those Saw movies, right?
Yeah, well, the first three at least.
You haven't seen that new one yet. You could watch that.
Think so?
It's been almost 3 years since you reviewed the last one. Maybe you'll get some new material.
You know, I think I will. Talk to you when I'm done watching. See ya.
I just got your text. So how did you like it? Zip? Zip?
Hey guys, Zibboyeye or just Zib is fine, and today we're going back to where it all began. For my YouTube at least. Which honestly feels like a millennium ago. In this episode, I'm looking at the latest installment of Saw. Saw. I ate that movie up as a late teen. A good mystery, engaging characters, and a twist that knocked my socks off. The sequel was a fine follow-up, even if I prefer the first. The third one, I both hated and loved. There's even more interesting behind-the-scenes stuff I hadn't mentioned in my original Saw 3 review. I'd like to revisit it one day. Which I could never do for Saw 4. Saw 4 marked the series' downfall. The characters and story became a flimsy excuse for a bloodbath. This solidified the franchise's public image as a mindless gore fest. Like many lengthened horror franchises, by the end, the lore wound up convoluted, contradictory, and contrived. If the series kept with its annual release, we'd probably get a backstory where Jigsaw orchestrated the moon landing. Thankfully, the franchise went on hiatus following Saw: The Final Chapter. Fans reunited with the series 7 years later in 2017's Jigsaw, penned by Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger. There end the studio's vision to return the series to its suspense mystery roots. While I agree with the direction of Jigsaw, it still fell to some of the same pitfalls of its predecessors. So there's my little summary of the series so you don't have to cringe at my old content. Goldfinger and Stolberg were writing the screenplay for Jigsaw's follow-up when a surprise call rang. It was Chris Rock, yes, that Chris Rock, with his vision of the new Saw movie. Rock discussed with them a rough concept, after which the two writers got to drafting. Once given the thumbs up, the duo became a trio with Rock assisting in rewrites. Entering production, the studio returned to an old friend to direct. Darren Lynn Bousman. The man started his Hollywood journey writing and directing Saw 2. He continued to direct the series up to Saw 4. But in recent years, Bousman fell in love with the theater. He protested returning to direct until producers said, "You're meeting Chris Rock tomorrow." Bousman hurried. "I'm on the next flight." Spiral was set to premiere in 2020, but the COVID pandemic halted such plans. Instead, the movie splattered across the big screen May 14th, 2021. And that date made a statement. The first 7 movies were released annually each October. Jigsaw and even the video games carried that tradition. Halloween became synonymous with Saw, which must be every marketer's dream when the month becomes your advertisement. So for Spiral to forfeit this marketing is a bold move. It gave me the impression that this film wanted to break the mold, maybe even successfully recapture what I loved about the first 3 entries. At least I cautiously hoped. Did it pay off? Let's cut the tension and look at Spiral from the Book of Saw. The movie follows Detective Zeke Banks having been assigned rookie officer William Shank as a partner. After a policeman is found dead, a mysterious USB winds up at the police department. On it is a video of the culprit, a Jigsaw copycat whose aim is to reform law enforcement by forcing officers to play his games. As the bodies pile up, Zeke must find this Spiral killer before he ends up a player in his sick game. The presentation surprised me. I never would have expected Samuel Jackson or Chris Rock in Saw. This Saw is aiming to be a mainstream hit. Rock of course leads as Zeke, whose abrasive demeanor makes a strong presence. His behavior is a product of his past. Zeke turned in a corrupt cop, earning him the ire of a few fellow officers. Zeke is a loud and empathetic protagonist I was glad to follow. His rocky relationship with the rest of the force set a good backdrop of distrust. The worst aspect of Zeke? He's played by Chris Rock, who fashions the film into his stage to polish his comedy act.
Women cheat in the daytime. That's right. You can ride a lot of dick before dusk. Some of you are mad I fucked your mother. Don't drain my battery watching Twilight. I got passcodes, I got Netflix, Hulu, Uber Eats, Postmates, lots of food.
The humor is a series of misses that left me in an awkward state of silence. Rock did not stop at the writing room, constantly chiseling his work. On set, Rock approached Bousman, weary of his character introduction. I can't do that. We've got to do better than that. So the next day, Rock returned with his art, talking about how you can't call Forrest Gump the R-slur today.
I don't know if you can make that movie today.
What the fuck you going on about?
Special needs abuse. I'm not woke, but you can't say handicapped, you can't say retarded, you gotta say special needs.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised when you've got a Netflix comedy special and the highlight of your modern career is getting slapped in the face. This material is par for the course. But when I did laugh, I wasn't supposed to. Look at Jackson in these flashbacks. His mustache looks like it's fresh from the dollar store. And I don't know if it's the editing, the scream, or what, but this scene slays me. Oh, that's good ham. But how's the story? There are some aspects of the scenario I appreciate. For one, there's no John Kramer, barring one photo. Don't get me wrong, I love Tobin Bell. He was the best part of seeing his character pop up every movie. But distancing Spiral from the series' convoluted lore was the right call. The movie even shelves Billy the Puppet in favor of this pig. Forfeiting both Halloween sales and the series' mascot? That's pretty bold. I also approve of making the Spiral Killer a copycat. The idea of Jigsaw imitators was actually introduced in this magazine prop from Saw 5. Well, I shouldn't say introduced, the ramifications of it probably weren't that thought out. It's more like a neat detail I noticed from editing these reviews. But it's not mere mimicry, as this killer targets unlawful cops to reform the police. Every other Jigsaw had at least tried to continue the will of Kramer. Again, I'm glad they further distinguished the Spiral Killer via motive. But Spiral is too different and in one way, too similar to its predecessors. Let's cover the games. They're brutal, they make me wince. And best of all, for the most part, they aren't too mechanically absurd. Though I'm fond of their designs, their function is a means to murder. This series has been plagued by this issue for a long time, and it's only worsened with familiarity. When I expect these characters to die, it's hard to feel suspense for the outcome of the game. When I said they were a means to murder, I meant in the structure of a crime drama as well. If you hadn't realized by now, there is no game plot, which is the scenario's worst feature. When you think of Saw, how often do you think of the police B-plot? The main draw is the game. Without it, Spiral lacks the rigid confinement and suffocating entrapment I associate with the series. And since that is the single plot line, there's no other to fall back on. Lastly, I'll discuss the film's heavy subject matter. Badge-abusing officers are a key part of the story. The hatred Zeke receives for turning in his partner stands out. From my understanding, this is an accurate representation of the consequences for disloyalty in the police force. I respect the narrative for conveying the influence of conformity in preserving a flawed institution. But a few plot details irk me. The police had abused their power, influenced by the fictitious Article 8.
We were working under Article 8. Cops were given their own discretion to crack down on crime.
I find it harmful that the film frames this real behavior as a result of a fictional device. It'd be fine in a dystopian future movie, but not one that asserts a close proximity to our reality. Abuse of authority is real, you don't need to construct a plot device for it. This scene exacerbates the issue. Zeke and William get in a shootout. After breaking the shooter's leg, Zeke lays down the punishment. Zeke represents the good cop, but this isn't it. Zeke is never punished for this either. The narrative doesn't want me to consider this police brutality, but it is. This further paints it as though the actual police violence in the movie was only a result of Article 8, pinning the blame on fiction, thus absolving our society of any responsibility. Though police brutality had always existed, some of the larger movements against it came about after Spiral's production. That did Spiral no favors, it made me eye its portrayal of the issue more critically. Spiral was not obligated to make a huge political statement. For me, its awareness would suffice, but it's damaged by its problematic rendering. Okay. Laying down that heavyweight, all I have left to cover is the ending, so spoilers until this time, and let's get to it. A little over halfway through, William supposedly dies. What an odd point for the sidekick to perish. For some reason, we don't even see his game. In fact, he was suspiciously skinned, so we can't see his face. That is totally William's. Why would the killer suddenly change his MO to hide the identity of... It's William, the killer is William. In spite of trying to do the exact opposite, this scene is a bright neon sign reading killer pointing at William. You already did this kind of trick in the last movie, you really think you're gonna fool us again? Zeke is ambushed and awakes chained to a pipe. The titular Saul lies before him. Why would the killer reference the bathroom game? It's special to us because it's the first movie, but he doesn't know that. For that matter, how can he recreate it? It seems as though no one discovered the bathroom. And if it's not a recreation, why do it? Zeke finds a lockpick, so no saw needed. In fact, his test is if he can save his old partner, Dunleavy. Why restrain Zeke anyway? It bears no impact on his game. It makes no sense in universe, it makes no sense even isolated to this one scene. Zeke fails to save his ex-partner. After Zeke discovers the killer, William Shank, oh my god, who would have thought? William reveals himself as the son of the man Dunleavy killed. William admired Zeke for indicting his father's murderer. He hopes for Zeke to join forces with him. This is what I was referring to when I said Zeke is never punished for his brutality. William doesn't care, and to reinforce my point, the guy who highlights the errors of the police force letting this slip paints a faulty narrative. In his final test, Zeke is given a choice. Either free his father, Chief Banks, or kill William. Zeke frees his father, but William rigged the trap, killing the chief while he escapes. So William allows everyone else, even his father's murderer, the chance to be saved, but not the chief? They needed a death to close the film on, but the consequence should have been a result of either Zeke or his father's actions. It better fits the structure of the game that way. Even if its construction could be better, the point the film ends on is alright. And that was Spiral from the Book of Saw. I held hope for this new entry. Did it pay off? I was happy to see the movie avoid the franchise's cardinal continuity sins while finally allowing for experimentation. Though I liked Zeke, I can't say the same when he transforms into Rock's latest comic routine. The scenario was hardly identifiable as Saw to me. An obvious sleight of hand spoiled the mystery, and the heavy subject matter was addressed too irresponsibly. So, no, it didn't pay off. It's the disappointment I've become accustomed to with this franchise. Should I expect more of the same? Well, what's coming next? Bousman stated that there is a planned trajectory for which Spiral would continue. But that was before it hit the box office. Spiral had the largest budget of any Saw movie, and the lowest earnings. But even were it a success, we wouldn't get a sequel so soon. If you remember, Rock interrupted Goldfinger and Stolberg amid writing another script. That script, now known as Saw X, was greenlit by Lionsgate in April 2021, a month before Spiral even released. That may seem odd, but remember, Spiral was supposed to come out in 2020, COVID delayed release. The writers couldn't just sit around and wait a year to see if their movie is a success, so it seems they returned to their original idea. And what was that idea? A movie entirely about John Kramer. No! I tried to never judge anything before it's out. I was optimistic for Jigsaw, I was optimistic for Spiral. I can't be optimistic for Saw X. Seeing every sequel after Saw 3 write and rewrite the most confusing excuse for continuity, you cannot make a backstory movie. It's like resurrecting a sunken ship. You're likely gonna reopen old holes and break in a lot of new ones. Overlooking that, I don't think the new movie will work. I don't think the series works now. So we started off with a soft reboot, didn't want to completely alienate the fans but wanted some distance from the latter sequels. Then the studio just says, screw it, throw all that confusing crap in the trash, don't need it. Except now they're like, yeah, that heap of mangled up plot lines we've been trying to get away from? Let's dive back in, head deep with a full motion exploration of it. What is the series' direction? What's supposed to make me want to buy a ticket? I don't know what to expect. But there's one thing you can expect. As long as there's Saw, I'll likely be reviewing it. I've been Zibboyeye, or just Zib is fine, and thank you for watching. Zibbo, bye bye!